Hey Bobcats, I hope you're doing well. If you're going to take notes, you can pause this video and set up your page. Today is a quick mini lesson on how to graph a line of an equation in standard form. We've spent a lot of time graphing lines in the slope and y-intercept form, but today we're going to be talking about standard form. Okay, so first of all, standard form. All right, standard form is an equation. And it looks like this. You have some coefficient times x plus some coefficient times y is equal to some constant. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at equations in this form. We're going to find the x-intercept and we're going to find the y-intercept and we're going to graph them. So let's look at an example. Okay, 5x plus 6y is equal to 30. Okay. Now, when you're in the slope and y-intercept form, you're given the y-intercept and the slope, and so you can plot the y-intercept and then use the slope to plot the line. This is a little bit different. We're going to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and then we're going to plot those 2 points and connect them to make our line. So if we want to find out what our y-intercept is, we need to find out what y is when x is equal to 0. And likewise, if we want to find the x-intercept, which is just where it crosses the x-axis, we want to find out what x is when y is 0. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up just a tiny little table here. We're going to find out what y is when x is 0 and what x is when y is 0. So I'm going to start with that first one. We're going to plug in 0 for x. So this will be 5 times 0 plus 6y is equal to 30. This is 0. So we're left with 6y is equal to 30. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 6, and I get that y is equal to 5. So here's our y-intercept. That's where it's going to cross the y-axis. I'm going to fill this in right here. Our y-intercept is going to be 5. Now let's find our x-intercept. So I'm going to write all of this out except for I'm going to plug in 0 for y. Okay, this becomes 0. And so then we have 5x is equal to 30. We can divide both sides by 5, and we get that x is equal to 6. So our x-intercept is 6. Now let's take a look at what that looks like on our graph. Not so straight. That's okay. So this is our x-axis and our y-axis. So let's go ahead and plot our points. We're going to plot our first point right here when x is 0, y is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is our y-intercept. Okay. The second point is our x-intercept when x is 6, y is 0. Now all I have to do is connect those to graph our line. Okay, so it's a little bit different than graphing in slope-intercept form, but it's definitely pretty straightforward and doable. So let's go ahead and do another example. Let me scoot this up a little bit. All right, let's look at the equation. 2y, actually negative 2y plus 3x is equal to 7. Okay, so we are going to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So I'm just going to put together a small table here. We're going to find out what y is when x is 0 and what x is when y is 0. Okay, so first things first, we're going to plug in 0 for x. So this is going to be negative 2y plus 3 times 0 is equal to 7. This goes to 0. So we have negative 2y is equal to 7. Divide both sides by negative 2, and we get that y is equal to negative 3 and 1/2. Okay. Next step is we are going to plug in 0 now for y to find our x-intercept. So this is going to be negative 2 times 0 plus 3 times x is equal to 7. This goes to 0. So you have 3x is equal to 7. Divide both sides by 3. And you get that x is equal to 2 and 1/3. Okay, so let me write our intercepts in there. This is going to be 2 and 1/3 and negative 3 1/2. Okay, don't freak out about the fractions. It'll be fine. I'm going to go ahead and put my x and y axis on my page. It doesn't need to be very big. The numbers that we're dealing with are not that big. Okay, so this is the x-axis, this is our y-axis. All right, so the first point, when x is 0, y is 2 1/3. Well, we're going to have to eyeball it. We're going to go up to 2 and then go about 1/3 of the way. Then the next one, when y is 0, your x is going to be negative 3 1/2. So that's over on this side. And then I can connect it to make a nice straight line. Okay. So that's how we're going to use the intercepts to graph these lines. You're going to need this skill for graphing solving systems of linear equations by graphing. So I'm going to have you practice a couple, and then we're going to call it a day. If you're running out of space, you can definitely flip your page over. All right, so here's the first one. Negative 5x plus 4y is equal to 20. And your second one, 2y plus 1/3 x is equal to 12. So go ahead and pause this video, see if you can find the x and y intercepts and graph these lines. And then we'll get started again in just a moment. All right, let's see how it went for you. I'm going to just make a small little table right here to keep track of my intercepts. If I plug in 0 for x, it causes this whole term to go away. So I'm just going to forget about it and solve for y. So if I divide both sides by 4, I get that y is equal to 5. So I can plug that in for my y-intercept. Okay, same thing. Let me rewrite this. If I plug in 0 for y, this whole term is going to be 0 because 4 times 0 is 0. So what I'm left with is negative 5x equals 20. If I divide both sides by negative 5, I get that x is equal to negative 4. So you can save yourself some time on this. You don't have to show every single step. Now I'm going to graph. I'm kind of running out of room, so I'm going to graph I'm going to make my graph intentionally. I know my x is going to be negative and my y is going to be positive. So I'm just going to draw this portion of my graph. This is x and y. Make sure you can see. Yes, you can. Okay. All right. So my When x is 0, y is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm 5 on the y-axis. When y is 0, x is -4. So that means we're going to plot -4 on the x-axis. And then I'm going to connect them to make a line. All right, there we have it. We've graphed that line. Now we're going to come over to the next one. I'm going to create a little XY chart to keep track of my intercepts. Now, if I were to plug in 0 for x, this whole term would go away. And I would have 2y is equal to 12. So I divide both sides by 2, and I would find that y is equal to 6. So I can plug in 6 for my y-intercept. Now same thing with our x. If we plug in 0 for y, this whole thing will go away. Now this particular thing, this 1/3 x is equal to 12, really throws people off sometimes. They want to multiply both sides, or they want to divide both sides by 3 here, and that's not the correct thing to do. You will not get rid of your 1/3 coefficient if you do that. So if we want to get rid of 1/3, we need to multiply both sides by 3. Because 3 times 1/3 is 1, and then that will be gone. So if I multiply both sides by 3, then I'm going to get 36 over here, which means that my x-intercept is 36. Okay, and if you want to double check, you can plug these back in one more time and check it out. So 36 times 1/3 is going to be 12, and then this is 0. 0 plus 12 was 12, so we know we've done that correctly. Okay. Now graphing is going to be tricky because my x-intercept is 36. So I think I'm going to make a scale of every square is going to be 6 units so that I can fit this graph on my page. I don't usually put the numbers on my x and y axis. I don't usually put the scale, but since we're going to be doing something different, I will. So this is 12, or 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and 36. This will be 6, 12, 18. All right, so my y-intercept is 6, so I'm going to plot that point. My x-intercept is 36. All right, Bobcats, that's it for me today. Hopefully this went well. You're going to be going on to solving systems of linear equations, and you're going to need this skill of graphing an equation that's in standard form. Please let me know if you have questions. Also check the additional resources in the bottom right corner of your slide to see if there's anything else that can help you with this skill. Have a great day, Bobcats.